Hi, this is Nellie, and this is day 3 of the 3-part series on self-compassion. In part 1, we had explained what self-compassion was. In part 2, we talked about how it came to be that we've become so harsh on ourselves. And today we're going to talk about the benefits of self-compassion and how to do it, how to be more compassionate towards ourselves. Studies have shown, and this is based on research, we know this intellectually, but there's also research that shows that people who practice self-compassion on themselves have a higher state of mental well-being. They are happier. They are satisfied with their life to a greater extent than people who don't practice self-compassion on themselves. They are more highly motivated. They take more responsibility for their actions. Now, I had to think about that one a little bit, but it makes sense because if we do something and we take responsibility for it without blaming ourselves, without creating guilt and shame, then it's easier to do than if we're going to start berating ourselves. So there's no harm in taking responsibility for our actions because we're going to show compassion to ourselves for it. People who practice self-compassion are known to make better life choices. And they also feel more connected to their community. So there's more of a sense of being part of versus being excluded from. What people who practice self-compassion also have been shown to demonstrate is lower levels of depression, lower levels of anxiety, and lower levels of stress. So there's a lot of pluses to practicing self-compassion on ourselves. Now, how do we do it? So I alluded to that in the first series, but I'm going to explain to you the simplicity of how we can do it. Just because it's simple doesn't mean we're going to easily, a lot of things in life are simple, but they're hard to remember to do, but it's a practice. It's something that we try and do more and more of. So out of the 3 components that we had discussed, which were mindfulness, common humanity, and kindness, this is what we do. So we have to bring an awareness that at the moment we are suffering. So often we're not aware we're suffering. Something happens, we may go into fear, we may go into action, but we're not realizing that we're actually suffering. So if we stop and take a breath in a moment and realize, we could just gently say to ourselves, okay, this is really hard. What's going on right now and what I'm feeling is really, really hard. And acknowledging that. So you stop and you notice your suffering. The second part is you communicate or share or feel part of a greater community. So for example, your teen is late from the time they were supposed to come back and you're worried. So you're saying, this is really hard. I'm worried and I'm suffering and this is very difficult. You connect and you take a breath and you say, okay, right now there's probably many parents out there that for whatever reason, they're currently worried about their kid. And it's not to minimize what's happening to you. It's just to have this sense that I'm not alone. This can happen to me. It's happening to others. It's happening to many of us. So what you're eliminating is this sense of, oh my God, why is this happening to me? And the third part is where you're going to actively seek to alleviate your own suffering. Now I'm going to explain to you, before I show you the little simple things we can do to alleviate our own suffering, is that we are mammals. And when mammals give birth to our young, they're helpless. They're not like some, reptiles that can manage on their own. Mammals need to be cared for. And so all of us are young, whether it be nature or humans. The young have to stay close to the mother, the parents, the mother and father out in nature in order to be safe. And so they're wired in order to not wander too far, for those who can wander, because they're wired to want to connect with warmth, with a soothing touch, and with soft vocalizations. So all of us mammals are programmed this way. And that's to help us survive. So the third step in showing self-compassion to ourselves is to do something that's within that realm. So it could be, you could be in public, nobody's noticing. You could just be rubbing your arms, you know. You could be putting your hand on your chest and feeling the warmth. You connect with that. It's a feeling of safety. You could put your hands on your stomach and feel the warmth from that. Some people might just like to touch their face, you know, gently touch their face. Some people could rub their arms. So you're doing a physical gesture at that moment that's making you feel safe. So let me repeat the 3 steps. We got to notice that we're suffering. We have to stop. Notice you're suffering. Acknowledge that. Feel compassion for yourself, you're suffering. Connect with a greater with humanity, with all the other people, knowing full well that there's many of us at this time, we're not alone. And then soothe ourselves through one of these physical gestures. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that means that 24 hours a day, 7 days out of 7, we can be there for ourselves. And I think it's a really beautiful thing. And I have to share with you that I have been practicing this, and the more I do it, the more it's just amazing, because the trickiest part is the noticing we're suffering. And now I'm getting really better and better at it. And it's incredible how I can calm myself. But not only that, after I calm myself, I can think more clearly, because I'm not in fight or flight response. I can think more clearly. So I can make better choices at that moment to help myself get through whatever it is I'm getting through. So it's not self-pity. It's really just a loving gesture towards the self. And there's many, many health benefits, as I mentioned to you, and benefits throughout your life of adopting this type of loving kindness towards yourself. So this wraps up the series. I hope that this has been beneficial to you. I hope it's something that will be something that you can use and try and apply. That is my wish for you. And as I mentioned before, I'm on a mission. There is so much self-loathing and self-hatred out there, and I'm just on a mission to get people to realize what's going on, that it has been a learned response, and that we can unlearn that. And we can live much healthier and happier lives, which means that everybody around us will benefit if we're able to do that to ourselves. And we're going to teach our children, you know, to have a different type of skill and mindset. Bye.